Cece, and this is going to be my first video soloing, so go easy on me. I'm here to talk about oppression, control, and abuse, and how all of that, of course, is a form of control. Some trigger warnings. I do have another abuse survivor in the room with me, so he'll let me know if anything gets too intense, but this is going to be a very tricky topic, even for me, so if you gotta take a break, do so. Alright. Another forewarning. I believe in God. So, one of the things I believe about God is that He is love, and the reason we have free will is because free will is part of love. When you are, let's say, being abused or oppressed or controlled, that is not a form of love. It is control. And it's one of the worst things people can do. But it happens a lot. Abuse is all about the control. There's a lot of techniques, and if you're curious about those, I suggest talking to or watching Philip's videos. I'll link them below. But for this, let's just say that it's extremely difficult to really imagine that somebody who claims to love you doesn't in fact represent that form as accurately as they should. And one of the worst things they'll do is they'll usually try to make it all about your fault. That's a form of gaslighting where they'll even purposely doubt your memories and so forth. They'll make you reconsider what you think. And all of that is a form of control. Alright, so one of the things in censorship is that it is a form of control. It's all about controlling the words, controlling thoughts even. And to do so is, in my opinion at least, one of the worst things people can do. But it happens rather a lot. Gamergate is by no means about Zoe Quinn or even abusive people, but all of that does have some serious roots in control, because aside from just making people doubt their own memories and their own thoughts, there's been a lot of censorship going on, and all of that is to control the message. That's literally a form of oppression. And I have to say, do not let anybody say otherwise, because that itself is part of gaslighting. And it's unbelievably immoral. One of the things they'll always say is that it's for your own good. Just like an abuse victim, they do this to make you doubt your own senses. When you doubt yourself, they're in control. So, let's talk about control. One of the things they do, other than just following the rules for radicals almost by the number, is everything they can to completely control the dialogue. It isn't even a dialogue. It's them having a monologue. And I'm gonna go over some signs of that later on, but as far as Zoe Quinn and some of these others go, this is one of the biggest things that they do. They will not go on an interview where they are not in control. And that's why. Because abuse is all about control. I think one of the most startling things for me when I watched a playthrough of Zoe Quinn's Depression Quest was how controlling it was. I got that it was supposed to be the idea of depression controlling you and making it hard to do things, but at the same time, having been abused by someone who was very much like that, it was frankly a little nerve-wracking for me. So, things my own abuser did as well was that it was a constant struggle to really believe anything they said. So, not only did they lie a lot, but they wanted you to be completely reliant on them and what they said. This was extremely dangerous, to be quite honest, because there were times that they would say things that were not only off the wall crazy, but it was so crazy you did believe them. And they were good at it. They made everybody around them really believe them. And to this day, that terrifies me. I don't want to go too much into some of the stuff they did, but it was very scary. And they had a bit of a victim complex, and I'm trying to figure out how to say that nicely, but there's really no other way. They really genuinely seemed to believe that they were Cinderella, that they were forced by the family to do all these chores and were completely, faultless, that they did everything perfectly, and at all times it was just a complete struggle to really gain some sort of perspective, because they would not only make you doubt yourself, but they would make others doubt you as well. And when you have that going on, not only is it a form of control, but it makes it almost impossible for you to find a way to break free of it. And unfortunately, we see that a lot right now with Gamergate, because there are so many people who not only believe the sort of victim complexes of, say, Zoe Quinn, but convincing them otherwise becomes more and more impossible. They will, at all times, make it very difficult for you to really believe yourself. And that's what they do. So one of the important things you need to realize is, flat out, that is a form of control. And they do it so well that people don't even imagine that it's going on, because I think to a degree a lot of people don't want to. I know when the other abuse victim came to me and said what had happened to him, I did not react well, because I couldn't handle it really myself either. It was just something I had spent so long in denial about that I didn't want to believe it. And I think that's a lot of what happens. One of the worst things, too, is that, alright, my abuser was a woman, and many women are far less likely to have to really get exposed on this, because they know very well that many people are much more likely to disbelieve that women do this kind of thing, and yet they do. They do that a lot. And that's something that's very important to note about Zoe Quinn in particular, because there is very little about this entire situation that doesn't scream of what the reality and the truth is here. And the fact that they try to constantly reassess that reality to make other people think it really does remind me of my abuser, because that's what she did too. And as far as being an abuse survivor goes, that is something I would like people to really understand, because this is something that they've perfected over decades of use of this. They know these techniques very well, and they know how to get away with them. They know how to handle public perceptions. That's literally what they do in order to control, and they're good at it. One of the biggest things isn't just that they have to be in control, it's that when you start questioning them, that is when they get more and more dangerous. My abuser and the other person who was abused by her, one of the most, there was several others, one of the things that we really had to sort of learn was they weren't always dangerous, but they became their most dangerous when you question them. And that is something that absolutely is the case with Mrs. Quinn. She really does get more and more dangerous the more people seem to expose their doubts as to what she's saying. And that is in no small part thanks to a means of reinforcing her own side and basically her control. So, how do I say this? While I personally saw a lot of that with her relationship with Aaron, it continues even in just how she treats Gamergate. The idea that it's completely about her is even part of her form of control. So, yes, I do get rather livid when people suggest that I'm abusing her because, well, that sends me back to those days when I had to deal with my own abuser. One of the things that my abuser was sort of infamous for was she was well known to have a few mental disturbed problems, and I don't fault her for that at all. But because of that, she often used it in such a way as to make everyone around her feel like she was the one being persecuted. And one of the things was, even when she sent me to the hospital at times with physical abuse, other people wanted me to apologize to her. So when people ask us if we're willing to apologize to Mrs. Quinn, no, my answer is always going to be no. It sends me straight back to those days, and I hate it. Everything they do is a form of control. Fear, intimidation, sympathy, guilt, all of it is about control. And the fact that either people don't see it or are simply looking away because they don't want to speaks highly to the nature of their flat-out charisma. I said once that I call people who are like that charismatic because that's what I call all cult leaders. And that continues to be the case. My abuser, too, had a very charismatic nature and used it in such a way that was flat-out terrifying. So, all I want to say is, yeah, don't doubt yourself.